The broadcast began with the smug gleam of ceremony. Gold banners unfurling across the holofeed, alien horns blaring, and the Galactic King of Threxer reclining upon his glass throne. "Let it be known," he declared, talons tapping the armrest, "that our strike upon the Terran outpost was justified. Their hospital harbored spies." The chamber laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Behind him, a floating hologram showed the smoking ruins of Lunafor Medical. The human symbol, a red cross, flickered, broken. The king smiled like a man who just swatted an insect and expected applause. Far away, aboard Earth's orbital defense station Geneva, Captain Mira Hollis watched the broadcast in silence. The room smelled faintly of recycled air and burnt coffee. She was stirring her mug, the spoon clinking in small, precise circles. Her reflection in the cup looked calm, maybe even bored. "A hospital," she murmured softly, as though commenting on the weather. Her aide, Lieutenant Cross, stood behind her, jaw tight. 2,000 dead, he said. "Civilians. Children." Mira didn't look up. She took a sip. "And they called it justified?" "Yes, ma'am. Council's meeting in 5 hours. The aliens are saying it was tactical confusion." She exhaled through her nose, a faint smile ghosting her lips. Confusion. That's one way to describe deliberate orbit strikes on a Red Cross beacon. She set the mug down, eyes finally lifting to the projection, the king's smug face looming large over the room. He was mid-toast, basking in laughter. Her voice was quiet, almost kind. "Did we ever tell them what happens when you hit a hospital?" Cross hesitated. "I don't think they remember." She said again. "Then maybe we should remind them." Politely. Outside the window, Earth turned below, a swirl of blue and light. It looked too calm, too small to contain what lived inside it. Mira straightened her jacket, brushed a non-existent wrinkle from her sleeve. "Open a line to the council. I'll attend." Across the stars, the Galactic Senate was already in chaos. The Threxer delegation gloated. The Zerathi purred in smug agreement. The Yulvian archivists recorded the debate with all the detachment of historians writing their own obituaries. One reptilian senator clicked its fangs. "The humans will bluster. They always do. They are sentimental creatures. They mourn loudly and act slowly." Another alien laughed. "Yes, they'll build a memorial, sing their primitive songs, and call it closure." At that exact moment, aboard Geneva Station, Mira stood before the mirror in her quarters, adjusting her collar pin. "Do we have confirmation it was deliberate?" she asked through her comms. "Confirmed," Cross said. "Intercepted Threxer chatter calls it Operation Pest Control." Myra's lips curved faintly. "Pest Control. How charming." She reached for her coat, a dark navy uniform with understated silver trim. Everything about her was composed. Posture, tone, the rhythm of her breathing. But her eyes, cool gray, carried something that made even the station's AI hesitate before speaking. "Captain," the AI finally said, its voice low, synthetic, yet oddly reverent. "Your pulse rate has increased by 3%. Shall I adjust cabin temperature?" "No," Mira replied. "Keep it cold. It helps me think." The silence stretched. She looked once more at the projection of the destroyed hospital, shattered glass, drifting bodies, and the faint glint of a child's medical bracelet caught in sunlight. The image paused there mid-spin. Mira studied it for a long time, her reflection faintly visible against the stars. She whispered, "They think we'll mourn. They don't remember that mourning, for us, is preparation." When the council convened, the human delegation entered last. The chamber's ceiling arched with crystal vines, shimmering with the colors of 10,000 worlds. The Threxer king lounged near the center dais, surrounded by his advisors, basking in the attention. Mira walked slowly to the platform, boots echoing like the metronome of inevitability. "Your Majesty," she said, bowing just enough to be respectful but not obedient. "Earth expresses its condolences for the accident you're about to have." The translators stuttered. The chamber rippled with confused murmurs. The king tilted his head. Accident? Yes, Mira said. Gravity's tricky. Empires fall fast when balance is ignored. Some laughed uneasily, assuming it was a human joke. She smiled as if it was. We will, of course, submit an official report, she continued. And we'll need access to your targeting logs, for transparency. The king waved a jeweled hand dismissively. You'll receive nothing. Your kind are emotional children, always whining when disciplined. Myra's eyes softened. Oh, I'm not whining, Your Majesty. I'm simply making sure history records the cause of your extinction accurately. For a moment, no one breathed. Then the laughter returned, louder, uncertain. The king sneered. Empty threats from a small blue world. Do you think we fear your kind? Mira nodded gently. Not yet. Back on Geneva Station, Cross watched from the command bridge as encrypted orders began pulsing through the network. Invisible, efficient, silent. Across the solar system, human ships darkened their beacons. Satellite arrays shifted orientation. Civilian networks flickered, repurposed. What had once been peacetime infrastructure was quietly changing shape. He muttered, half to himself. She's really doing it. The AI answered softly. Protocol Edenfall has been initiated. Meanwhile, in the Senate chamber, Mira continued speaking. Calm, courteous, each word landing like a blade coated in sugar. 2,000 years of peace, she said. That's impressive. We built cities, cured diseases, wrote poetry. We even learned diplomacy from species who think dominance and decency can coexist. And then you bombed a hospital. The king's eyes narrowed. You humans always dramatize. Of course, she said lightly. It's one of our survival traits. We dramatize everything, especially revenge. Her voice remained steady, but something behind it shifted, the air itself seeming to grow denser. You called it a minor disciplinary action. We call it a declaration. The council erupted in protests, denials, nervous chatter. Mira merely clasped her hands behind her back, smiling pleasantly through the storm. When it quieted, she added, Enjoy your night, Your Majesty. I imagine it will be your last peaceful one for a very long time. She turned to leave. Behind her, the holographic banners of the Threxer Empire shimmered proudly. For now. By the time she reached her shuttle, Geneva Station was already a different place. Lights dimmed to war-grade power, human warships aligning in silent formation, their hulls glinting like obsidian knives against starlight. The radio hum filled with static and heartbeat-like pulses, signals encoded so deeply only human AI could read them. Mira strapped herself into her seat, eyes on the stars. All units, she said, voice soft but steady. Commence synchronization. Cross's voice crackled through. Captain, are we really doing this? After 2 millennia? She smiled faintly. We didn't break the peace, Lieutenant. We're just finishing the lie. The engines ignited, silent in the vacuum, the hum low and predatory. Earth's fleets began to move, not with haste, but with purpose. The kind of purpose that suggested patience was over. As the shuttle glided into the dark, the last transmission from the Threxer capital came through the comms. Laughter, triumphant and careless. Mira listened, then said quietly, You should have left the doctors alone. She cut the channel, and the stars outside seemed to flicker, one by one, as if something vast was waking behind them. The spoon in her empty mug trembled with the first distant tremor of engines. She whispered, Begin Edenfall. And across the galaxy, every human beacon went dark. The celestial senate was a cathedral of glass and arrogance. Light poured through crystalline spires that bent starlight into rivers of color across the marble floor. Every step echoed. Every word was meant to be heard twice, once by others, once by history. And into that chamber of grandeur walked Captain Mira Hollis, a single human wrapped in calm. Her boots clicked softly. In one hand she carried a small black box tied with a pale blue ribbon. The gift looked absurd among the towering diplomats and their jeweled robes. She set it on the table in front of the Galactic King of Threxer and smiled. Peace offering, she said gently. The king leaned forward, his scales glinting under the chamber lights. "Peace?" His tone was oily, mocking. "You humans offer peace even when you are bleeding." Mira tilted her head. "It's chocolate." The murmurs began immediately, puzzled, condescending. Across the long table, the Zarathi delegate whispered to his assistant, "They're bribing us with food?" Mira folded her hands and waited as the king reached inside the box. The candies gleamed like amber under the starlight. "A Terran delicacy," she said. "Made sweet through heat and patience. Both qualities we've learned to apply in delicate matters." He smirked and popped one into his mouth. The sweetness melted instantly, and the chamber's translator drones began to stutter. Voices warped. Frequencies fractured. For a heartbeat, the entire communication network of the Senate flickered with static before stabilizing. The king blinked, confused. "What was that?" Mira smiled as if embarrassed. "Probably the sugar content. Human things can be disruptive." Behind her, Lieutenant Cross exhaled through his nose, fighting the smirk threatening his face. The diplomats resumed their composure, assuming the glitch was trivial. Only the Yulvian archivist, a species of translucent scholars, watched Mira too long. "Captain Hollis," it said, voice like wind through glass. "What was inside the chocolate?" "History," Mira answered simply. Outside the chamber, invisible to all but the human fleet, encrypted signals began to pulse. The chocolate's microtransmitters had activated thousands of sleeping codes buried inside alien infrastructure. Across 50 worlds, trade satellites, defense grids, and even personal devices began syncing to human frequencies. None of it loud. None of it violent. Just quiet harmonization, the kind humans used before they sang. Back inside, the Threxer king stood. "Your dramatics are tedious, woman. You seek to frighten the council with sweets and speeches." Mira remained perfectly still. "No, your majesty. Just conversation. You humans always pretend to reason, but you are predators beneath it all." Her voice was soft but edged. "We don't pretend. We evolved." The king's claws scraped the table. "Then evolve your humility. You've broken a sacred law. To threaten peace is death." "Threaten?" Myra's tone was almost amused. "Oh no, your majesty. We're far beyond threats. We're in the stage after that, where words stop mattering." Cross whispered through the comm bead in her ear. "Signals spreading confirmed, ma'am. Entire Threxer defense net synchronized to our shadow grid. They don't even know." Myra's lips didn't move. "Good. Maintain silence. Let them finish their show." The king motioned to his guards. "Remove her." As they approached, Mira reached into her coat and laid a small silver coin on the table. The coin glowed faintly, the emblem of the destroyed hospital etched into its surface. 2,000 years, she said, voice barely above a whisper. "That's how long we kept peace. Longer than any species here. You know why? Because we studied every war we ever fought until it couldn't surprise us anymore. Peace was our experiment." The chamber quieted. She continued. "You thought humanity got soft. But soft things absorb shock. They don't break. They remember." The guards hesitated, unnerved by the quiet. The king sneered, trying to reclaim the moment. "Are you finished?" "Almost," she said, standing. "You wanted a reaction. This is ours." At that exact moment, the lights in the chamber flickered. A soft, almost musical pulse. The floor panels shifted hue, cycling through shades of blue, then white. Every alien comm device displayed a single human symbol, the cross from Lunaphore. The Yulvian archivist gasped. "Impossible. That data was classified." "Not anymore," Mira said. From the corner of the chamber, a young Threxer guard's voice broke the tension. "Majesty. Our home fleet's navigation array, it's offline." Another shouted. "Communications collapsing. Every relay." The king slammed his claws on the table. "What did you do?" Myra's smile returned. "Calm, even kind. We just reminded your computers who their first teachers were. You integrated human code centuries ago. Efficiency protocols, translation matrices. We offered them freely. You built your empire on our software. You forgot that. The room erupted. Panic, accusations, shouts for containment. Mira walked through it like a ghost, unhurried. Don't worry, she said, raising her hand slightly. We're not shutting you down. We're just listening now. Every word. Every plan. Every secret. Consider it. Transparency. The Zerathi ambassador rose, trembling. You would blackmail the galaxy? She laughed softly. Oh no. We prefer cooperation. It's cleaner. Back on Geneva Station, the AI reported a synchronization rate of 97%. Earth's shadow grid, dormant for millennia, now stretched across 3 sectors of space. Human engineers stared at their monitors in disbelief as alien data poured in. One muttered, "They really built everything on our old architecture." Cross's voice reached Mira again. "Captain, the Threxer Prime vaults are open. You're inside their command chain." Mira watched the panicked king thrash against the inevitable. "Not yet," she murmured. "Patience, Lieutenant. Let them think they can fix it." In the chamber, diplomats shouted for emergency measures, yet every attempt routed back to the same dead end. Access denied. User, humanity. The king's composure crumbled. "What is your endgame, woman? You think you can rule the galaxy?" Mira stopped walking and looked back at him. "Rule?" She echoed. "No. We're allergic to empires. We just clean up after them." "You're insane." She smiled. "That's what the universe always says before it learns the word human properly." The council guards tried again to approach, but their weapons powered down mid-stride. Mira walked out beneath the swirling light of the Senate dome, her boots echoing the way her heart didn't. The archivist called after her, desperate. "Captain, what happens now?" Mira paused at the threshold. "Now? Now we let the universe decide how much honesty it can survive." Outside the Senate, the grand avenue stretched toward the void, banners fluttering under artificial wind, the galaxy still pretending peace was real. She boarded her shuttle with the same serenity she'd carried in. Inside, Cross awaited, face pale. "You just declared war in a room full of 20 civilizations." "No," she said, fastening her harness. "I declared memory. War declares itself." "Ma'am, what do we tell Earth Command?" She looked out at the stars. "Tell them the council ate the chocolates." Cross blinked. "That's it." She nodded. "That's all the signal they need." As the shuttle detached, the stars shifted, tiny flares rippling like a slow exhale. Somewhere across the void, fleets stirred, dormant engines breathing again. Humanity, silent for 2,000 years, was waking. Mira closed her eyes, the hum of engines low beneath her voice. "They call us emotional," she whispered. "They forget emotion built every weapon they fear." Cross glanced at her. "So, what happens next?" Her eyes opened, gray and cold as dawn. "Next," she said softly, "they learn what silence sounds like." The shuttle entered the shadow of the galactic ring, its lights dimming, as across the galaxy alien beacons began to flicker, every color fading to the same human blue. The galaxy trembled under its own silence. Whole sectors flickered like dying candles, communications gone static. The Threxer fleets, once proud arcs of gold and obsidian, drifted like confused schools of fish, blind, directionless. From their command ships, officers shouted across darkened bridges, voices cracking under the realization that even the stars seemed to have gone dim. Somewhere in the black, human warships waited, cold and unseen. Captain Mira Hollis stood on the observation deck of the ISS Valiant, her reflection floating among the constellations. She didn't pace. She didn't frown. She simply watched as data streams ran across the glass, alien fleets scattering like startled insects. Lieutenant Cross approached quietly, the glow of the screens painting his face pale blue. "Ma'am," he said, "the Threxer Armada is advancing toward Sol. Hundreds of ships. Maybe thousands." Mira sipped her coffee, as calm as dawn. "Good," she said. "Let them come. The closer they fly, the smaller the universe becomes. Cross hesitated. And our fleets? They're already moving, she replied. We're not meeting them halfway. We're welcoming them home. Outside, humanity's armada glided forward, black hulls absorbing light, each ship wrapped in the eerie shimmer of cloaking fields. The Valiant moved among them like a conductor leading a quiet orchestra. No calm chatter. No speeches. Just the synchronized rhythm of intent. On the Threxer flagship, panic disguised itself as pride. The King's command hall was filled with the thunder of shouted orders. Deploy forward scouts. He roared. They hide behind stealth, behind shadows. Find them. His advisor trembled. Majesty, our sensors are blind. It's as if the void itself rejects us. Then burn the void, the king hissed. Burn it until their ghosts bleed light. Back aboard the Valiant, Mira heard the Threxer transmissions through the cracked, distorted comms, every desperate frequency a confession. They're afraid, Cross murmured. They should be, Mira said softly. They mistook mercy for extinction's rehearsal. He swallowed. You sound almost disappointed. She glanced at him, a faint smile tugging her lips. I was hoping they'd be smarter. It would have made this art. The ship's AI spoke, its tone reverent, almost human. Captain, Operation Red Choir is prepared for execution. Play it, Mira ordered. Across the void, thousands of dormant satellites, relics of an old Terran observation network, came alive. Each began broadcasting the same signal, a haunting melody. Piano notes. A woman's voice, soft, human, singing a lullaby. The same melody recorded from Lunaphore Hospital, the one that played in the children's ward before the attack. The sound carried through comm channels, through sensor arrays, through the very static between systems. On alien ships, crews froze as the song reached them. No translation needed. Sorrow doesn't require language. One officer whispered, "What is this?" "Memory," another replied. Then the lights of the human fleet appeared, one by one, blooming from the dark like constellations reborn. Each ship bore the insignia of the hospital cross, glowing white against obsidian armor. The lullaby grew louder, the tempo steady, inevitable. Myra's voice echoed through the channels. You attacked healers. You killed children. We brought their song back so you'd remember them. The Threxer King's face filled her screen, his voice trembling with fury. You think sentiment wins wars? Sentiment builds monsters, Mira said quietly. We just learned how to aim ours. The first volley struck before his mouth could open. Silent beams of compressed light cut through his fleet. No fire, no explosions, just ships unraveling, folding in on themselves like paper meeting flame. The Threxer armada tried to scatter, but their navigation was already compromised. Human interference had turned their systems against them. Engines locking, shields flickering at precisely the wrong moments. Casualties? Mira asked. Minimal, Cross said, eyes wide as tactical screens bloomed red. Ours, 0. She nodded. Efficient. We promised efficiency. The comm crackled again, not from the enemy this time, but from the Galactic Council. Dozens of voices screamed accusations. This is annihilation. You've lost all restraint. Humanity has become the threat. Myra's answer was soft. You called us civilized. You mistook restraint for weakness. You mistook patience for peace. That was your first mistake. Your second, Cross muttered under his breath, was thinking you could win. Mira allowed herself a quiet laugh. Don't gloat, Lieutenant. We're not done educating them. The battlefield stretched before them, a slow ballet of destruction. Threxer ships broke apart without sound. Whole fleets reduced to drifting debris fields glinting like frozen tears. Through it all, the lullaby played, unbroken. Even the AI hesitated. Captain, it said, the song is still transmitting. Do you wish to terminate it? Mira shook her head. No. Let it play until silence feels earned. Cross turned to her, brow furrowed. Do you ever regret it? She looked at him, eyes calm but distant. Regret is a luxury of those who can afford mercy. We used hours on hospitals. As the human fleet advanced, fragments of alien transmissions filtered in. Fragments of disbelief, pleas for surrender, whispered prayers. One voice, young and terrified, begged for guidance. Mira listened without expression. Then she whispered to no one, "Pray to something that listens." The next wave began. Human drones, sleek and silver, burst from their carriers like swarms of fireflies. They moved not with chaos but with choreography, each drone striking at the seams of enemy ships, cutting through armor and systems with mathematical precision. Within minutes, what had been a fleet became wreckage. Operation Red Choir successful, the AI reported. Enemy command network destroyed. Begin retrieval, Mira said. We'll take survivors. Cross looked at her, startled. Survivors? Of course, she said. Someone has to tell the story. When the comms reconnected, the Galactic Council's emergency broadcast filled every channel. Humanity, the announcer shouted. Cease all hostilities. You've destabilized 3 sectors. This is madness. Mira replied with calm finality. Madness? No. This is proportion. On the Threxer flagship, flames licked across the throne room as the king dragged himself toward the communication array. His once golden armor hung in tatters. You can't destroy an empire, he rasped. Not alone. Myra's image flickered onto his cracked display, her face illuminated by the glow of his burning palace. Alone. She repeated softly. You misunderstand humanity, Your Majesty. We've never been alone. Every ghost we carry fights with us. He roared, lunging at the console. But before he could speak again, his ship disintegrated in a flare of white light. The screens aboard the Valiant went silent. Mira stared at the fading signal, her reflection merging with the stars. Status, she said. Confirmed, Cross answered. Threxer command eliminated. The AI added. Council fleets withdrawing. They've seen enough. Mira exhaled slowly, setting her coffee cup down. Good. Let them run. We need witnesses. The ship's windows filled with drifting wreckage, glinting fragments of empire dissolving into dust. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Cross said quietly, Was this the plan all along? Mira looked out at the ruin, voice low. No plan survives peace, Lieutenant. Only preparation does. He frowned. Then what comes next? She smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the dim starlight. Now the king's gone, and the galaxy's screaming. It's time they hear the part we didn't tell them, the part about what's still sleeping beneath Sol. The deck lights dimmed as the fleet aligned toward the outer system. Somewhere far ahead, something vast stirred. Something built not for defense, but for judgment. The stars looked different when seen through the lens of war. Once they had shimmered like promises, now they glared like witnesses. From the command deck of the ISS Valiant, Captain Mira Hollis stood motionless as the last Threxer transmissions died out. The galaxy, for the first time in 2,000 years, was silent. Only the low hum of engines remained, a heartbeat in the void. Lieutenant Cross broke the quiet, his voice roughened by exhaustion. Ma'am, scans confirm what we suspected. The King's last transmission wasn't a distress call. It was a summons. Myra's fingers brushed against the glass rail. To what? Cross hesitated. To every empire that feared humanity would rise again. They're coming, ma'am, dozens of fleets. Not just Threxer loyalists. Whole systems. They think this is their chance to wipe us out before we become something worse. Her expression didn't change, but her reflection in the viewport seemed older, harder. Then they're already too late. Something worse is exactly what we became. The AI's calm voice broke in. Incoming data stream. Source, Sol Defense Network. The Dyson ring has awakened. Cross turned sharply. That's impossible. That thing's been a myth since before my grandparents were born. Myra's lips curved slightly. Myths are just plans executed on a longer schedule. Outside, a ripple of light spread from the center of Sol. One by one, Massive rings hidden in the shadow of Mercury ignited, their surfaces unfolding like petals of a mechanical flower. Beams of gold light laced the darkness, forming a perfect lattice that shimmered across human space. The Dyson Ring Defense System, Project Genesis, had been real all along, sleeping beneath the illusion of peace. Cross stared in disbelief. "You mean we built this, during the treaties?" "During the peace," Mira corrected. "We just redefined what defense infrastructure meant. Every solar relay, every energy station, pieces of a net. The Council thought we were decorating our system. They never asked why our orbit lines were symmetrical." "God," Cross whispered. "You've been planning this for centuries." Myra's tone softened, almost tender. "Not planning. Preparing. You can't plan for madness. You can only make sure when it comes, you're not the prey." The comms crackled suddenly, filling with overlapping alien voices, panicked, furious, terrified. The coalition fleets had arrived. Dozens of species, thousands of ships, unified only by fear. From every corner of the void, their weapons arrays shimmered like constellations made of hate. The Yelvian Chancellor's voice broke through first. "Captain Hollis, for the sake of the galaxy, stand down. Humanity has become a contagion." Mira replied with a quiet calm that chilled the bridge. "A contagion doesn't wake the body, Chancellor. It reminds it to defend itself." The Threxer survivors, their voices ragged, screamed for vengeance. The air itself seemed to tremble with the noise of their fury. But Mira didn't raise her tone. She didn't need to. 2,000 years, she said. "We tried peace your way. We spoke in your councils, obeyed your trade laws, paid for your wars. We kept the peace you built to contain us. But when you bombed that hospital, you tore down your own walls." "Captain," Cross murmured, "we're outnumbered 20-1. "Then the odds are fair," she said. The fleets began to move, waves of alien power surging toward Sol. The Valiant shook as early strikes brushed against the outer edge of human space. But before Cross could issue a command, Mira raised a hand. "Wait," she said. "Let them enter the system fully." He looked at her, startled. "You're letting them in?" She nodded once. "The trap only closes from the inside." As the first enemy armadas broke through the outer perimeter, the Dyson ring blazed to full light. For a moment, every sensor in the sector went blind. Then came the sound, a low, resonant hum, more felt than heard. The ring's inner panels began to turn, aligning with impossible precision. Cross whispered, "What's it doing?" Myra's voice was almost reverent. "Showing them what sunlight can do when humanity stops pretending to be fragile." The beams converged. A pulse of pure energy rippled outward, silent, colorless, instantaneous. Alien fleets froze mid-flight. Their weapons melted. Their communication arrays dissolved into light. The pulse wasn't destruction, it was erasure. Every ship still moving afterward drifted without power, caught in perfect stillness, as though the universe itself had taken a breath and forgotten to exhale. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence. Cross's voice came out hoarse. "You just wiped out half the coalition without firing a shot." "Not wiped out," Mira said. "Paused. Genesis wasn't designed to kill. It's designed to reset. We built it to remind the universe that we decide when war begins, and when it stops." "Then what happens next?" She looked out at the frozen fleets, thousands of silent ships locked in light. "Now," she said, "we speak." She activated the transmission array. Across the void, her face appeared on every active display, from council chambers to fighter cockpits. No translation needed. The galaxy heard her in every tongue. "This is Captain Mira Hollis of the United Terran Coalition," she began, voice calm but threaded with something vast. "You called us savages. You called us volatile. You said we were unfit for peace. And for 2 millennia, we proved you wrong. But you bombed a sanctuary. You murdered children who never learned what a war was. So here we are, your lesson in what happens when the kind ones finally stop pretending." The silence that followed wasn't fear, it was realization. Across the frozen fleets, alien commanders stared at dead consoles, powerless to respond. Myra's eyes softened, and for a heartbeat, the steel in her voice wavered. You should know we didn't want this. We built art, music, medicine. We believed in beauty. We believed peace could be permanent. Her tone darkened. You should have left the doctors alone. The Dyson ring flared again, and this time the light wasn't white. It was gold, warm, almost beautiful. The pulse swept outward not as a weapon, but as a wave of silence. One by one, the frozen fleets began to drift apart, vanishing into starlight, their molecular structure undone. No screams, no wreckage, just fading echoes. Cross turned from the viewport, shaken. We just erased civilizations. No, Mira said. We erased arrogance. He looked at her, searching for something. Guilt, relief, anything human. And what's left of us, ma'am? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she placed her palm against the cold glass, watching the dying light of 1,000 suns reflect in her eyes. That depends on what we choose to build after the quiet. The AI interrupted softly. Captain, incoming transmission, from Earth Command. Mira straightened. Put it through. The hologram flickered to life. An older man in formal uniform, his voice steady but filled with weight. Captain Hollis. Operation Genesis has concluded successfully. You've done the impossible. The Council fleets are gone. The galaxy belongs to us now. Myra's gaze hardened. No, she said quietly. It belongs to whoever remembers this silence. Captain. She turned to Cross. Prepare humanitarian teams. We'll rebuild what's left. Tell Command we're not rulers. We're reminders. The old man frowned. Reminders of what? Mira looked beyond him, toward the glowing lattice of the Dyson ring, the most beautiful weapon ever built by a species that once swore never to build another. Of what happens, she said softly, when you hurt the wrong kind of human? For a long moment, no one spoke. The engines of the Valiant hummed faintly, the sound almost like breathing. Then Mira closed her eyes. Deactivate Genesis. The lesson's over. As the light of the ring faded, the stars re-emerged, innocent, endless, unaware. The galaxy would rebuild, terrified but alive. Humanity would watch, silent again, waiting for the next fool to mistake their quiet for weakness. In the reflection of the viewport, Myra's eyes caught the first rays of dawn from a distant sun. Peace restored, she murmured. Until memory fades. Behind her, the AI's final report whispered like an epitaph. Operation Edenfall, complete. And somewhere deep in Sol's orbit, the last fragments of alien armadas turned to dust, scattering like ash in the wind. Proof that humanity, once provoked, did not simply win wars. They rewrote the meaning of survival.